Endless Hustle is presented by Routine. Routine helps you unlock optimal health and daily performance by leveraging AI, in-home testing, and the latest in digital health tools to create a completely personalized micronutrient formula full of vitamins, minerals, and specialty compounds precisely dosed for your body based on your unique DNA, blood tests, and lifestyle habits. The process is simple, and thousands of members are choosing Routine and reporting results like more energy, better stress management, improved mental clarity, and more. Visit routine.co to join. We've got a great day on the Endless Hustle today as fresh off Money in the Bank, the guy, the myth, the legend, former power lifter, which I was watching some of the shit you used to do, Big E, and I'm like, holy cow, dude is an absolute beast. And now you're crushing it in the WWE. Congratulations. Let's talk all about it. First of all, fresh off Money in the Bank, how exciting was that?
It was that was a night that I won't forget for a long time, if ever. Yeah, man, it was special. It was definitely one of our first shows back in front of fans. But to get that kind of reaction, that reception, man, that was something I remember for. It's just incredible, man. I think becoming Mr. Money in the Bank is pretty cool. Winning that and knowing that it should lead to becoming a world champion is pretty cool. But also just being received that well by people, that reaction, man, it's stuff that like just even thinking about it again gives me goosebumps. But that's something I'm really appreciative of because you don't really know. We were in this Thunderdome era, so we had our fans there virtually for so long, but you don't really know how people will take to you once you get back in front of fans. It's been a long time without having shows in front of fans, so it's just really heartwarming that everyone was behind me, so wildly, overwhelmingly positive. It was just a beautiful night for me.
So I'm in New York and you guys are going to have the MSG show coming up. Fans are going to be in attendance, which is incredible for you guys and girls. What's that energy like? Obviously, we had to, with COVID and everything, there had to be safety in place and you guys still put on an incredible show. But when you can have the energy of an arena or a stadium and have those people behind you, what kind of impact does that really make?
It really buoys you, and it can be cliche. It can sound cliche, but there's nothing like it. It's a lot of the stuff that hurt a little bit more than the Thunderdome era because you the bumps and bruises you feel them, but there's just something about that adrenaline you have in the moment with fans and when they're loud and they're with you. A lot of the stuff you don't feel in that moment. So yeah, it's night and day. We really, like you said, because of safety protocols, we were doing the best we could in this era without fans there. They were there virtually in what we call the Thunderdome on screens, but there's never going to be a replacement for having people there live, and it's just so much more organic too, in that you don't really know from town to town. And I think that's the beautiful part of our industry is that the crowd in Tokyo is so different from the crowd in LA, which is so different from the town in Jackson, Mississippi, or Kansas City, everywhere you go. And even on, you might go to that same town and come back 3 months later and they react so differently. So that's what I really love is that organic moment is it's a one of one. There's nothing like it, and it changes from time to time and every single time. So it just felt like a really, really special moment that night that I won the Money in the Bank briefcase.
So I had David Arquette, the actor, on the show yesterday. He's a huge wrestling fan. He was actually at one point the WCW world champion.
Of course.
Held it for like a hot minute. It's great. But I brought your name up. He's a huge fan of yours, by the way. We just didn't have time to cut the clip. I was going to play it right now, but he's like, I love that dude. I love what they're doing with them. To be able to penetrate different markets like that, where celebrities know who you are and are cheering for you, that's got to be such a cool thing, man.
Yeah, no, it is rewarding. Like I've had so much outpouring of love. Like one of the hardest parts afterward was just trying to get back to everyone who had texted me. I had over 100 texts that I needed to get back to in the DMs, but I'm just really appreciative of not only just the love from the fans, but the love from my peers too. And I would consider David a peer because, he's actually, I actually watched his documentary that was awesome because he recently got back into wrestling and wanted to prove because Unfortunately, I'm sure he got into this, but his run in WCW, he kind of became the butt of jokes for so long that one of WCW's worst mistakes was putting the title on David Arquette. But he really proved, I think, recently that no, he really is good at this. That he worked hard to become good at it and really sacrificed a lot. So it was just really endearing to see his documentary and his journey. But no, I appreciate all the love and support for real.
And by the way, he just talked about the physical beating that you guys and girls have to take, because I was like, what's the recovery like? He's like, recovery? I still have shit that hurts every day years later. And it just puts in perspective athletically how gifted all of you are and what you are able to do. And it just blew my mind. Hearing it from an average Joe like myself, from David, just it puts in perspective what you guys are, and girls are able to do.
Yeah, yeah, it's not an easy way to make a living, but it's rewarding. It's wildly rewarding, and yeah, you deal with injuries, you deal with pain, you deal with a lot of sleepless nights with travel and hopping on planes at 5 in the morning. But for me, it's all worth it. The juice is worth the squeeze because there'll be a day when I can't do it anymore, and I just want to look back and know that hey, I pushed myself, I pushed my body, pushed my mind, and I did something pretty cool. So yeah, it's a lot of people who aren't really familiar with what we do, they think, oh, it's entertainment, so it doesn't hurt. But nah, you go out there. One of the things too is even just running the ropes. I like seeing people who think, oh, this is cake, I got it, and like, okay, just hit the ropes for a few minutes and see your ribs will end up bruised up. Like the first time you end up hitting the mat, it's not as easy as people think.
So I want to take the clock back, turn it back. You're a college football player. You're also a power lifter. You have dreams of going to the NFL. Injuries derail that. How does wrestling become the option? And when do you decide this is my path?
So I got super lucky. My story is really just about bumping into the right person at the right time. So like you said, I had a bunch of injuries. I played, like, my dream, my first love was football and college football. And I got fortunate enough, after only playing 1 year of high school football, I ended up getting a scholarship to Iowa. So I played football at Iowa, but I tore both my ACLs, broke my right patella, tore my left pec, tore my right patella tendon, all in a 2.5 year span in college. So I thought, maybe this college football thing isn't for me. But wrestling was, if you asked me at the age of 22 to create a list of 200 potential jobs for yourself, professional wrestler, WWE superstar would not have made that list. For some reason, I was a fan as a kid, but it never even crossed my mind. But I just happened to, one of the guys that I played football with at Iowa, Mike Humple, was drafted by the Steelers, but he got hurt. But he knew this man named Mike Doherty, who was close with the Iowa wrestling program. And he randomly met Jim Ross, who was with WWE at the time, on a plane. So it was just this weird happenstance of being in the right place at the right time and knowing a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy. And they said, hey, would you be interested in it? So I ended up taking some shirtless pictures and sent them to WWE so they had an idea of my physique. They liked him enough to send me to Tampa for a tryout. And Tampa is where I'm born and raised. So it felt like kismet, It felt like it was all lining up when I found out that FCW, that's a place where once you got signed, everyone had to go to FCW to train. And that was in Tampa, in my hometown. So I thought, worst case scenario is I'll take this gamble on myself. If it doesn't work out, I'll just stay with my parents for a little bit, save my money, and then go back to college. I was in grad school at the time, go back to grad school and finish. So, you know what? 12 years later, a job that I took on a whim, I'm still doing it. So it's just really, I feel extraordinarily blessed just to have bumped into the right people at the right time.
So at what point, because there's a great movie called Fighting with My Family that came out last year, which is a great story. And obviously I'm sure you're familiar with, and Florence Pugh is obviously telling in The Rocks, and it's awesome. But there's a moment where you realize that, shit, this may be my career. I may be able to do this. What was that moment for you? You're going through the training. There's probably self-doubt happening. What's the exact moment where you identify, I may have a shot at the WWE?
I think it was during my tryout, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I ended up, I just thought, all right, let me go to do this tryout, and if it's fun And I think one day I can be good at it. I wasn't expecting to get it overnight because it's a long process to really learn and hone your craft. I really believe in that. Like, I don't know if the number is really 10,000 hours, but it's probably pretty close to that to really feel you've mastered your craft. So for me, there was just a moment, I think, during my tryout where they flew me down where I didn't even have wrestling boots then. I didn't have the proper attire. But I remember a moment where my shoe, it was an old football shoe that I used to work out in. And I remember the sole just ended up flying off. And I said, you know what? I'm going to keep going. I'm not letting this stop me. I don't have a sole on my shoe, but I'm just going to keep going. And I think for me, that was the moment where I felt like, you know what? I do enjoy this. And I have a lot to learn. I have a lot of room to grow. But this is something that I think can kind of fill that void in my life. I felt like athletically I had more to give. And when football was done, and I didn't know exactly what to do. I thought maybe I would just be, I was in grad school because I thought, all right, this is the next step, and I'll probably work in an office for the next 40 years of my life. But a part of me really thought I have more to give athletically. So as soon as I did the tryout and dealt with the shoe flying off and everything, you know what? I thought this feels right. Something about this just feels right.
You get the call up to WWE. What's that moment like? You finally hit the majors. What is it like?
Oh, it's incredible. So my very first night on the main roster with WWE was attacking John Cena. I come out with Dolph Ziggler and AJ Lee, and I close the show by leaving John Cena laying arguably the greatest WWE superstar of all time, definitely one of the greats. That was a night that obviously I'll never forget in Philadelphia, the night of our Slammy Awards. And that was really cool. And almost 9 years later, still here, still doing it.
All right. So you'd obviously mentioned the ascent now. You're on the path to the championship. When you have this kind of momentum in the WWE, how do you continue to have that momentum? Do you fully grasp what's happening? Are you able to envision the next month, 2 months? Obviously, you have SummerSlam coming up August 21st. What's it like now moving forward?
I think the biggest thing is being receptive to just kind of the audience. That's a big part of staying fresh and staying connected with fans is paying attention and listening and realizing there are times where I spent the last 7+ years in a trio called the New Day, for those of you who don't know. And we've had a ton of success. We were just voted the greatest tag team of all time, which is wildly humbling. But for us, we always try to stay as fresh as we can. And we do that with our wrestling gear. And we have incredible people who make our gear. Jonathan Davenport designs our gear. He's a friend of mine. He's incredible. And we also have main event gear. They actually make it. And one of the things that I love with wrestling gear is you find ways to really express yourself. So we're able to connect. I'm a hip hop head. So for a lot of people who don't know, there's an album a lot of people haven't heard of, but it's incredible. It's called Below the Heavens by Blue in Exile. And my gear for the Money in the Bank match was kind of an ode to that. So it's using our gear to express ourselves. It's finding different ways to freshen up the stuff that we do in the ring. So I think that's a big thing I always feel like there should never be a moment where I feel like, I made it. I can chill. I can coast. I can rest on my laurels. You can always grow. You can always learn. You can always tweak things. You can always improve. So for me, that's a big thing, is to be humble enough to realize I don't have all the answers, that even if I'm here for another 10 years, I still need to take steps to grow, to listen, to adapt, to evolve. And that's what we strive to do. And sometimes you miss the mark, sometimes you hit it. So that's kind of just been the focus, is making sure that you always stay as fresh as possible.
By the way, when I saw that voting for the greatest tag team of all time, the list that you're on is freaking insane. And to win that, did you have like any expectation, any belief? I mean, the names that you're above are all-timers of all-timers, it's crazy.
Yeah. And, for me, I think a lot of people, especially around my age, a little bit older, like if you grow up in the 80s or 90s, I definitely get that for people, they have a certain nostalgia and an attachment to, man, like the Road Warriors. And I say, people ask me like, hey, how would you rank things? And it's hard for me to put myself as number one. So I wouldn't put us at number one. But I think that's kind of the fun part of these lists is it's it's supposed to lead to debate and arguments and people putting people where. But I'm really proud of what we've achieved. I think the three of us really do have an incredible resume. I think we're worthy of that number one spot. But yeah, it's really just it's very humbling to look at that list, that top five, and seeing DX, the Hart Foundation, and the Road Warriors. So many of the tag teams that we grew up on that are all-time greats were on that list. So it is very humbling to be included and to be number one.
Let's talk hip hop. Who's the Mount Rushmore of rappers?
Ooh, okay. So I tend to bristle at making lists because I'll say something now and I'll change my mind and feel different about it tomorrow or even an hour from now. But let's go the Mount Rushmore of rappers. Let's go. Rakim is a pioneer. Rakim just completely changed the way that people rap. So he definitely deserves to be on there. I'll go Tupac. I'll go Big, and man, I'll go Jay-Z. I usually when I was younger, I always put Nas ahead of Jay. I feel like Jay's more recent body of work has been stronger than Nas's. But again, like if you ask me in 10 minutes, I'll probably change my mind. But that's my list for now. That's my.
By the way, that's my exact Mount Rushmore too. And Rakim, like the thing with him is you won't hear him named a ton of times because he doesn't necessarily have the commercial appeal that, let's call it, Big Ear Jay have. But there's a great video of him doing an NPR Tiny Desk appearance, and he's now like older, and dude is just rapping, and you're just like, this dude is from a different level. And Jay's lyrics and memorizing everything. There's a great video with him and Timberland for Fade to Black, which you're just like, man, this dude's a genius. So that's actually my exact four. Usually I have battles with people on this, but you match my exact four.
Beautiful, beautiful. You got good taste.
All right, so powerlifting. I got to talk to you about this because I lift. I go to the gym every day, but I'm like 180 pound, 6'2" dude, right? Like I'm not you. Powerlifting, what type of diet and nutrition do you have to incorporate in order to build that type of strength level? It's mind-blowing to me.
Well, for me, the big thing was just getting calories, and I know a lot of ideally I would be able to eat clean and just eat a lot of clean stuff, but I had a hard time putting weight on. So when I first started, I used to train at John Cena's gym, which is actually not too far from where I live now. But they grew up together. Rob McIntyre, like best friends growing up together and whatnot. And he was the guy who trained us. So everyone in FCW used to train at Cena's gym. And so Rob was the one who decided to come up with everything. And he was just my coach through the whole process. He just kind of singled me out and said, hey, I think you can do well in some powerlifting. So it's like, all right, this is awesome. So I started working out with him. And at one point, I was actually just telling someone this earlier today, but at one point he had me eating a whole DiGiorno's pizza every single day on top of what I was already eating, just to put the weight on, because I did one meet in 2010 and at the 275 pound weight class, and I did well there, but we both felt like my true potential was being a super heavyweight, and there's no limit there, so let's get as big as you can. And I got as heavy as 317. I'm about 255 right now, so I just eating, getting fat, but being strong. So for me, my diet was I was eating 7 meals a day. Probably, wasn't really counting calories, but I'm definitely over 5,000 calories a day easily. Just putting in as many calories as possible. That was fun for me. It was a fun time. I got just getting fat and strong. But yeah, I got my squat was up to 750. I squatted 750. I bench pressed 575, which is actually on tape. They did Cena and Rock did a big buildup for their WrestleMania match. Man, this had to be about a decade ago. Their first WrestleMania match, and Cena told me I was actually benching fairly heavy. I was starting to get heavier and heavier, and I was getting into that PR territory. And he told me we got to 575, which I had never done before. And he told me he had a camera crew there. If you hit this, I'll make sure that it makes the documentary they did. And for me at the time, no one knew who I was. I was in FCW well before I was on TV and whatnot. So that was a it was good motivation. Actually, Roman Reigns was the one spotting me, but I ended up hitting that 575, and that was just a really cool moment. It's awesome that I get to see it. I can watch it back whenever I want because it was on tape. But that deadlifted 806 pounds. But yes, once in my life, I was very, very strong.
Dude, that blows my mind. Like I can max on chest press at like 285, which for me is like enormous. And I'm like, to even envision that number is insanity to me. It's more than double what I get up. I can't even imagine it, dude.
Well, it's humbling because I think, oh, I'm strong, and then I'll watch actually the guy that I competed against. The way powerlifting works is if there's a tie, the tie goes to the guy who's lighter in body weight, at least in super heavyweight. So I was this is a powerlifter named Blaine Sumner. He's incredible. He squatted 1,000 pounds multiple times, many times in his life. And we actually that day we had the same exact total. So I ended up winning, and I became a national champion because we tied. Because he was like 340 something pounds, and I think at the time I was about 295. But what humbles me is I don't spend too much time bragging, because when I see guys who have squatted 1,000 pounds or guys who bench 700 pounds, it knocks you down a peg. So as strong as I was, there's always someone much stronger than you.
I want to talk about representation in the WWE because few organizations, few sports leagues are doing a better job of it than you guys. Obviously, even with the New Day, it's you, Kofi. I mean, it's incredible to see the younger generation and the example you're able to set for them. Are you getting constant feedback, or kids running up to you and they're like, Big E, because of you, I want to get into wrestling, or I want to pursue my dream? Is that a constant thing for you?
It's honestly something that I guess, I mean, it's obviously we've had a pandemic as well, so you don't have that much interaction with people. So I don't really necessarily see a lot of that up front, but my hope is that I do have that effect. I do hope that, black and brown kids can see me and be inspired, and even white kids and people from all different backgrounds. But I do take pride in seeing how well we're doing with representation, like you said, seeing Sasha and Bianca winning an ESPY for biggest moment, WWE moment of the year, seeing them have a classic at WrestleMania is incredible. To see two black women really killing it. And what I love is it's clear to me that it's not a quota system, that the company didn't decide, let's just give this moment to two black women who might be okay. They are two of the very best at what they do. And that's what I love right now, is looking around our industry and seeing so many really dope black performers, black wrestlers getting those opportunities. And I look around and it's cool to see in the locker room, so cool to see so many. We're talking about, and people not just on TV, not just on the main roster, but we're talking about champions and people excelling. Bobby Lashley's a world champion. Bianca is a world champion. Apollo Crews, even though we butted heads, he's the Intercontinental Champion. You have so many. You look at even Swerve in NXT is a champion. There are so many of us who are doing so well, and it really warms my heart. And I think we want a product. We want our brands and our shows, I think, to be reflective of what our world looks like. And that's the hope, too. And even beyond just black talent, we have so many Japanese, Hispanic talent. It's just really beautiful to see this really diverse group of wrestlers, male and female, on our programming.
So I also work with the NHL. And obviously, with you being a Tampa native, the Lightning just repeated as Stanley Cup champions. What does that mean to that town? What does that franchise mean? And to see them go back to back, how cool is that?
Man, it is really cool to see the city so excited, man. It really feels like Titletown right now, with the Bucks doing so well, the Rays getting to the World Series, the Lightning winning like 2 in a row back to back. I really feel like the city, everyone is going through a tough time with the pandemic, and it just my heart was warmed for my city. Like I said, I've been here 1986. I spent my whole life. Right now I'm in Land O'Lakes, which is barely outside of Tampa, but I've spent my whole life in this area, minus college. I've lived here since 1986. So the city is very near and dear to my heart. So it's just been beautiful to see people get excited about it, to go to the boat parades and have something to just like lift their spirits and take their minds off the struggle. So that's been really heartwarming. And hats off to the Lightning for doing an incredible job. And winning a championship, especially at that level, is not easy, and to do it back to back is incredible. So ton of respect for them.
Have you gotten to experience any Lightning games? Because it's electric down there, man.
I know. I keep telling myself that I need to go. I have not been, and I'm ashamed of myself for not going, but I do need to go. My buddy Brody, who unfortunately passed away late last year, was a big hockey fan and has been had talked me into was talking to me about going at some point, and he used to definitely because he moved to Tampa and he was going to Lightning games as well. And yeah, I definitely need to go at some point.
What kind of respect do you have for those guys? Like I always tell people, NHL players may be the best athletes on the planet. As someone who, again, has been at an elite level in multiple sports, what kind of respect do you have for those guys?
Oh, a ton, man. Even my really good buddy Tony Luffman works in the NHL as a commentator, announcer, talking head. He's kind of educated me more and more. And even he was in town when there was the NHL All Star game a few years ago was in Tampa, and I got to meet a few of those guys. And I'm so blown away by their athleticism, but so many just good human beings who are humble and down to earth. So, just the last few years, as I've learned more, I've walked away with such a greater appreciation for the sport and for the athletes. The game is so fun and fast paced, and yeah, just so much respect.
Heroes Rock Project. Let's talk all about that because you're doing some really cool stuff with that, and I want to plug it pretty heavily. So I'm going to throw the ball to you. What is Heroes Rock, and what are you guys doing?
Thank you. Yeah, Our Heroes Rock is the name of we started a Kickstarter, and it's me, Jonathan Davenport, and Andreas Hale. We're all friends, but those two guys are incredibly talented. And essentially, after the passing of George Floyd, after the murder of George Floyd, I kept thinking, in many ways, I felt helpless, and I kept thinking, I want to do something. I want to use my voice to do something, and I think education is key. I think the more you learn about people who look different than you, I think it helps you become more empathetic. I felt like if we were able to do something in that vein, I think it could be useful. And we thought, what about doing something akin to Schoolhouse Rock, but for important Black figures? So we decided, let's make a short film, an animated film using 3D animation, using hip hop, using science fiction to tell the story of Ruby Bridges, but to do it in a fun and engaging way. And so our Kickstarter did really well. We raised over $130,000, but 3D animation is not cheap. It's not cheap at all. So we raised a lot of money, but right now we have, and what I love too is I really feel like we're bringing in so many of the best elements. We have Rhapsody, who's a 2-time Grammy nominee. She's incredible. Who's our MC for the song. We have Eric the Architect, who is, to me, one of the best producers on the planet. Flatbush Zombies. He's a member of Flatbush Zombies and produces so many of the records. So we have them on the music. We're using an animation studio called Something's Awry, which has done really incredible work. And we're just really excited. And right now we're in that production stage. So we have a song that we absolutely adore that I just would love to play for everyone, but we have to kind of keep under wraps right now. We have a script that we love as well. So we're very close to sending our stuff off to Something's Awry to get the animation going. But hopefully very, very soon, before the end of the year, we'll have that out. And our hope too is to turn it into a series and to have more of these episodes, to have longer episodes, to tell so many of these stories, because I think it's important for all of us. And the metaphor that I've used is, for me, it's like when I was a kid and my parents would take the applesauce, and if I needed medicine or vitamins, they would take it and crush it up and mix it in the applesauce. And as a kid, you're eating this applesauce without even really knowing you're getting the nutrients. And that's what we hope this project is, that you sit down and you're entertained, that you're singing along, that you're really enjoying it, whether you're younger, whether you're older, and you walk away with that information without feeling like you were beat over the head with something pedantic, or like you were showing up to watch some educational material. Because I think for a lot of people, when you feel like you're being preached to, it makes you not want to really engage. But when it's fun, when it's engaging, when it just has this just bright energy, and you walk away, oh, I learned something about Ruby Bridges that I didn't know before. That's really our aim.
Dude, you're awesome. Can't wait to see you at SummerSlam. I want to plug that as well. August 21st, Allegiant Stadium, Las Vegas. That stadium looks amazing, by the way. 8 p.m. on Peacock. Dude, you're awesome. Congrats on Money in the Bank, everything that's happening for your career, and obviously Heroes Rock. Really cool stuff, man. You got an electric personality. Thanks for a fun interview, Biggie.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, man.
All right, brother. Good luck.
All right. Thank you.
Take care,
Appreciate it.
man.
Peace.